Hello, everybody. All right, it's time for our Sunday evening broadcast. Hope you're having or had a lovely weekend. It was actually nice outside today. I was pretty surprised. I'm just ho hoping that I can come up with enough conversation topics so I can get this link posted here and not give you some dead air. But I seem to be not creative this morning or this evening. See, there you go. Having trouble. On board the struggle bus. Generally, it takes about 30 seconds for it to show up so I can give you all the link. Okay. No, I don't want to save any of my information right now. Thank you. All right, let's take a look at my channel here. Uh, Video manager. Let's get that link going. No. Oh, golly gosh. Always does this to me. It hides. It likes to hide. You know what I'm saying? It hides where I'm supposed to be. My little live window hides from me. There we go. And then it always wants to do the streamception where I hear my own voice. All right. Okay. Create announcement. 6th broadcast link. Here's the link to the 6th broadcast. Okay. There we are. Send a copy of that announcement to everyone immediately. Thank you so much. All right, and I just have to do it again on that other section. There are 2 sections, by the way. I don't know if I ever told you that. There are 2 sections this time teaching. So, if you ever wonder why it's taking especially long for things to happen, that's why. 6 broadcasts. Man, this has been flying by. You guys hope you're having some kind of fun out there. I know there's been a lot of gnashing of teeth at the technology here. The only thing I can say about that is that Blackboard is being replaced starting next year, so it's not like the university officials at large are unaware of the problems that we've been having as a school with this particular platform. It's all right for what it usually does. Let's get the PowerPoint up here. Can minimize that. Okay, I think we're good there. Let's move this up and there we go. Okay, so today, on today's agenda, well, actually, you know what? Today we're going to go over persuasion basics because that's our next assignment. I'm also going to assign the peer review assignment for your speech. Which your informative speech. I'll have to write out the due dates, I think, on a Word page and then announce them. Now that I think about it, I don't think I added that slide to my PowerPoint yet. So we'll do that live on camera. Anyway, so yeah, persuasion basics, but I also wanted to start with saying a couple of things that will hopefully put some of your thoughts at ease. So a word about some of my philosophies here that have become kind of relevant in the past couple of days. Regarding like speech length and due dates in particular, is the kind of the thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about. My expectations for like the length of the speeches and the content therein are pretty exact. You don't have to worry about any kind of like hidden requirements. If it's not on the rubric / it's not on a video that I've talked about explicitly, then you don't have to worry about doing it. Going along with that, if I say, give a 4 to 5 minute speech, it means that it should be between 4 and 5 minutes. You don't need to invest extra time and make it into a 10-minute speech at all to get full credit. 4 to 5 minutes is full credit. And I know I ranted about this earlier in that email I sent out, schools, before you went to college, I know I've got a lot of international students in this particular section, but in American schools, for the longest time, at least when I was going to school, they train students to think about how they can go the quote-unquote extra mile, as our expression goes. That you can They give you a list of requirements, but that's just really for maybe a C level grade or a B level grade. And then the teacher would say, if you want more than that, you've got to go the extra mile. You've got to do more and do higher quality. Not so with me. Growing up with that, I felt it was just a way to make grading arbitrary on the teacher's part. And that, if they liked you, then you got more points, basically, is what I felt. And quite frankly, now that I am on the other side of teaching, I feel like that impression has been validated by the behavior of some of my former colleagues at a different school that I will not name. It was a public school, public K through 12 school. I taught high school before this job. But in any case, that's why just really reinforced to me that is to be a fair professor, to be a fair teacher, if I will give you the A level requirements right out of the gate. Like this 4 to 5 minute speech is an A level speech. If you go too long, as I was ranting about earlier, it kind of means that you planned more content than you had time for, and that, as I said, in the real world can be a problem because time is limited, and if your boss or your board or your client only has an hour to speak with you, or you only have an hour to speak with them, rather, you can't go an hour and 30 minutes, right? You have to be able to. The skill that we hopefully are trying to get you to practice is okay. Here's the time limit. How much can I get in there? What are the decisions I need to make about this topic? About what details are really important that I can make sure are in those 5 minutes so that I don't go over time. Um, and so, as I mentioned, that part of professional practice is making sure that you're able to respect that time limit. And like I said, I know that it flies in the face of what many of us, at least as if you had schools that were like mine, I know it flies in the face of the philosophy that maybe they presented to you. But for me, if I say 4 to 5 minute speech, then make sure it's between that time length, no less. I mean, I'm not saying you can go 2 minutes and then that's fine, but no, just between 4 to 5 minutes. That's an A range in there. Just make sure it fits in there. If you go too long, it's the same problem as going too short. Okay. I mean, there's some flexibility. I'm not going to be like, oh, it's been 5 minutes and 5 seconds. F. No. But like I said in my example, somebody emailed me this morning and said, my speech is 6 minutes and 15 seconds. Is that too long? And yes, that is too long. You don't want anyone really to notice that you've gone over time. All right. If you go over time, technically that's okay. But if people start being like, oh man, looking at their watches and are wondering when the thing's going to wrap up, that's too much. In the professional world, that will get you into trouble. That'll get you cut off. And that'll also mean that important things that you maybe had scheduled later in your presentation will not be said. And that'll be unfortunate because maybe a key decision will revolve around that detail that you never presented because you ran out of time. So that's why it's important that you always practice to get, you are the one that knows the topic. It's up to you to make these judgment calls about what is and is not important to fit a limited time frame. Okay, ranting about that over. Let's talk about due dates for a little bit. My due dates are very flexible, but so that's good. But they also not arbitrary, which is I won't say it's bad, but there are going to be some times where I'll have to say I'm sorry, I can't really accept this later. And we're kind of getting there. We are now 2 weeks. If you're in the 5-week session, we are now practically over. If you're in the 10-week session, don't you worry. There's plenty more to come. Keep in mind, everyone, that this is supposed to be a 15-week course, and we are compressing it quite significantly, especially if you're in the 5-week section. In fact, this week we're kind of going to, after this video, we're going to diverge because those of you in the 5-week session, you need to finish all the objectives within 2 weeks, which is definitely doable. Don't feel like it's going to be heck on wheels. It will not. You will be busy, but it won't be heck on wheels. Those of you in the 10-week section, we're going to be able to cover other topics that will help you and aid in refining your public speaking. But anyway, my rant here is that I generally collect work when I think I have time to look over it. That's number one way I do due dates, is when can I look at this. Next, I also have to consider that I need my grading done by the time grades are due. So especially at the very end of your respective summer sessions, guys. I'll say something like, well, I need to have this. My grades are going to be due on. They're usually due the Monday after the session ends. So I said, I need to have at least one full day to grade everyone's speeches. Um, so it's got to be due Sunday. Like if you turn it in later than Sunday, I'll already be, slamming through the pile of grading by the time you turn it in, and maybe I just won't have time to get to yours, and that would stink, right? So that's why, later in the semester, my attitude, not my attitude, but my um, I guess my demeanor might change about a due date towards the end, because I need to make sure that I have time to grade your work. And I want you to do, and ultimately, this is all because I want you to make sure that you are successful. I want you to have enough time to be successful. So sometimes, if you know that you can't make a certain due date, you've got to let me know. I can, I can make arrangements, especially that final week. And I have had this happen before. I had a member, actually two members of the military, um, in different classes at different times on different years. But they basically told me that the final due date that I had selected was not going to work. They would be at drill, and due to a variety of other things that they had going on that were also related to their degree program, particularly they were going to be student teaching. They just would not be able to get to the work by the time I had the due date. So I was able to give them, the what they call the I grade, the incomplete, so that they could turn it in later, and I didn't have to worry about submitting my grade for them until later as well. So I mean, I'm more than happy to be that kind of flexible for you, but you do need to let me know, and do need to also understand that, I got deadlines as well, and I can't change those. So the flexibility I give you is the flexibility that I feel I have, in getting my work done. So that kind of rants over. So like I said, if you need the due date to be later, just let me know as soon as you can, and just kind of understand that I'm not just giving due dates just because. I'm trying to reason through how long it takes for you to do the work well, and also how long it might take me to grade your work. All right, so I'm flexible, but it's not an arbitrary type deal. I'm not trying to be vindictive or anything like that. If I have a particularly busy week, which we will be coming up on a couple busy weeks for both sessions or both sections of this class. It's not arbitrary. It's just because I'm trying to make sure that you get your work done and make sure that I can have time to get my work done as well. Okay, moving on to different things. Um, let's go ahead and actually, before we get into this, let's switch it up. Hold on a second. We're going to go into Word document here, and we're going to talk about this peer review, um, for in your informative speech. All right, so here's a blank Word document. We'll kind of write some notes here, and I'll post. Depends on what we end up writing. Maybe I don't need to post anything special, but if you look in your book, I'm sorry, your workbook, not your textbook. I'm trying to figure out the page that it starts on here. If you have a book that is from fall of 2015 or more recent, on page 177, and again, this might be missing on yours because these are tear out pages if it's used. So again, it's going to be around page 177, but they're simply labeled presentation peer review sheet, and they're divided into half pages. But again, this page is tear out, so maybe yours won't be until 179, 181, somewhere around there. But on 177, starting on 177, you have all these presentation peer review sheets, um, and we're going to do an activity that this week that allows you to look at your peer speeches and not really grade them in terms of you're giving them a grade, but you will rate them and give them some feedback. I will also give you feedback. This is the first speech where we're actually grading something with a rubric. The other assignments so far are really just did you turn it in? Was it of the minimal bare minimal requirements? A completion grade, as it were. Speaking of which, you should see that your grades have been updated. So if you turn in the work, you should have full credit. And if you don't have full credit, I'm sure I would have given you a note on the grade. Um, If you do not have a grade, like if you see like the dotted dash lines, the null grade, be aware that means that either I've lost your work, which is, like I said, the organizational issues with uploading things to Blackboard. Maybe I just couldn't find it. Or the bottom line is I don't have your work. So if you have a null grade and you're pretty sure that you turned it in, a null grade looks like this, out of 10 points. That's what a null grade looks like, by the way. So if you have something that looks like this for one or both of your assignments, it means I don't have your work. So we need to address that as soon. When the end of the semester comes along, I will convert this double dash here to a 0, and that will not be good. That will definitely hurt your grade. So you need to make sure that those dashes are resolved. It could be as simple as the fact that you emailed it to me, and I was like, yeah, thanks, sure, I received it. And then, it was probably another day before I could get around to looking at it, and maybe I just forgot that you submitted it because I look at Blackboard more than I look at my email, and even though I said I received it, I might not have remembered to look for it. That's one of the reasons why I want to make sure that when you upload a speech, it is all on Blackboard so that I can associate it with your name, and I have one place to check, and it's very easy for me to stay organized in making sure your work is done. In any case, so again, you should have grades now in your grade book on Blackboard. If you do not, you need to let me know. All right, so that aside, let's talk about this next assignment. For this peer review, this is one of the requirements for the course, and it's one of the objectives for the course is that you're able to kind of review and critique not a speech. And so we do this through a peer review. Again, on page 177 or roundabouts there in your workbook, you'll have this nice little rubric. So let's talk about the nitty-gritty of the assignment. So you already have or should have an introduction speech recorded and ready to upload wherever you want to upload it. So your first component of this assignment is by Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. upload your informative speech. Again, sorry if it takes a long time. I apologize. Upload your informative speech again to the discussion forum in Blackboard. Okay, so I've created a discussion forum. It's simply labeled informative peer review, speech peer review, or something like that. I can probably go look at it and here, let's make sure I don't reveal any student information here for a second and give you, I just pull it up. There we go. I just pulled it up. Let's go ahead and just look at it. So I've created this form in your classes, and I've created some threads that you can post in. Now I've grouped you together based on your last name. So if your last name starts with B through G in this particular section here, then you would post here. Now, if you're in the other section, the letters will be slightly different because I want to divide you all into groups of no more than 7. This class has about, it ranges between 18 to 22 people in it. So it just turned out that the easiest way to divide that is into groups of 7 and 8. I believe one section got lucky and has only 18, so I was able to do 3 groups of 6. But in either case, there's a good handful of videos for you to watch within these groups. So if your last name starts with B, if my name wasn't Dallas Pike and my name was Dallas Benson, I would click here. I would hit reply. And in that reply, I can either put a YouTube link, that's how I turned it in, or I could browse my computer and upload the file just like I did on the assignment. All right. You might say if you upload either way, you might want to say just a couple words in here. You don't need to write anything really when you're posting your video. All right, just make sure that people can see your video as you post it. Again, that's why I recommend that if you're a private person and you have chosen to do a YouTube link, make sure the privacy setting is set so that people can see, anyone with the link can watch your video. don't set it so that you have to specifically invite people to watch it. All right, that'll cause some issues. So make sure that your privacy settings on YouTube are either public or it's just labeled as private. Anyone with the link can view. All right, those are the two good settings there. Okay, where are we? What am I doing there? Okay, so informative speech forum. That is where you want to post your video, and then you do that again by Tuesday. Okay, and again, that due date is not arbitrary. I got a lot of emails from people saying that they were going to be gone tonight and maybe even part of tomorrow, so that's why it's Tuesday. I want everyone to have a chance to see this video and upload their video to the right forum. All right. So that means that starting on Wednesday, you should be able to look at your group and watch each video in your group. And for each person, I would like for you to look at your rubric, look at your presentation, look at your presentation peer review sheet. Should start on page 177 on workbook. Okay, and I would like for you to rate and give one written comment on each of the areas. So just in case someone's missing theirs, the ratings are all out of 5. So 1 being bad, I'm sorry, wow, nope. 1 equals strongly disagree, and 5 equals strongly agree. So let's do it this way: strongly disagree, and 5 equals strongly agree. And there, you are rating your peer on the following statements: the speaker's attention getter was engaging. So you would rate them 1 through 5. Either you strongly agree or you strongly disagree. And then I would like for you to give 1 comment as to why. All right. So you would, this is trying to recreate the way that the book does it. This is the item, and then you can write a comment here. There is no comment spot on your workbook, but again, I'm assuming you're either writing this as a Word document, which you will then submit to your peer, or you're just following along on the thread. Okay, so any case, so the speaker attention getter was engaging. The next item reads: the speaker's main points were clear. I'll bold these when we come later. Again, comment. Okay, the speaker used effective internal previews and summaries. Then again, comment. The speaker's conclusion activated and engaged the audience. All right, so basically I think what this one is asking here is when the speaker went over their conclusion, did you feel like you were better off for listening to the speech? Now, maybe the information you already knew, but was it clear the speaker tried to give you a reason to have been listening? All right, if that kind of makes sense. I know that we didn't do any audience analysis with this speech, which means that you didn't confirm whether or not this was genuinely new information. And for really for all any of us knows, everybody is what's a speech topic I know is out there. Maybe all of us are nurses and know how to draw blood, right? Even so, even if you as the peer reviewer watching that video already knew how to do that process, did the speaker really try to engage the audience with the assumption that maybe the audience didn't know? You're kind of asked to give that kind of judgment. If I didn't know how to do this, or if I didn't know this information, was it clear the speaker tried to leave me with a feeling that I am better off now for having known this idea? Okay, let's see, what's the next one? So the speaker maintained eye contact. And again, as far as delivery goes for this speech especially, that's basically the only delivery element that we can really look at in terms of delivery technique is did you look up at the camera? Now the next one is the speaker used effective bodily elements of delivery. All right, I am going to go ahead and rewrite this just a little bit. That's why I wanted to go over it with you all. What this is referring to is things like in your book, as we read this chapter, which will happen about midweek this week, they talk a lot about standing up, how to hold yourself while standing, where your arms should be while standing, and how to do this thing called the speaker's triangle, again, while standing. As you might imagine, this class does not really take place in an environment where you have a podium and where you can walk around the room freely and have the camera follow you. And again, I really don't feel comfortable saying you need to get yourself a camera crew and a live audience to do these speeches. That just infinitely complicates this to the point where I think I've ranted about this already, but it just infinitely complicates it. So, in exchange for not practicing necessarily those things, we will do an activity with those bodily elements of delivery, but it's not for this speech. All right. So instead of this, the speaker used effective time usage. Okay. We can just make that better. I have it written that awkwardly in my notes too. The speaker used time effectively. How about let's phrase it that way. I did say it was morning earlier when it's clearly evening, so you gotta forgive me a little bit. I'm a little out of sorts, I guess. So the speaker used time effectively. In other words, does it seem like they cut out important details? Or similarly, does it seem like they used filler? Is kind of what I'm asking you there. So then moving on, the speaker used effective vocal delivery. And what that means is, were you able to hear the speaker? Did the speaker speak quickly enough for you to understand? Not quickly enough, but did the speaker speak slowly enough for you to understand? Or maybe they were too quick. Okay, so these are the questions I would like for you, the items that I would like for you to take a look at. And you know what I will do? I think I will post this as... would this be more useful as an announcement or as a thing of our on the forum description? You know what? Let's try a forum description first. All right, so let's head on over to the forum description so you get to see me do this, all this behind the scenes stuff. Discussions. I do want to leave the page. Thank you. We're getting there. All right, so I'll actually not be lazy and we'll edit the settings here. Boop. There you go. Now that's all convenient for you in one location so that you can see what you are rating and what comments. So you can just copy and paste this from one here to here. You can just copy and paste it and put in your responses as they are relevant. Okay, let's see. Your last name starts with an A. That would be true, Dawn. Is there not in your section, is there not a forum space for someone whose name starts with an A? I just now saw your comment. I apologize. I wasn't looking at my secondary monitor. I was being a bad presenter. I was not looking at my audience. So anyway, filling this out, let's say this is going to be due, let's see, now I already copied and pasted it. This will be due Friday at 11:59. Again, I want you to give you enough time to do a good job on it. So I figure if you watch like 3 speeches a day, you should be able to get through it fine. So I think that looks good. Okay, good. If you have any questions about this assignment, of course, you can always contact me through email or Skype. A lot of you have been contacting me over Skype since I wrote my username on that announcement. Again, it was on the syllabus, but I think putting in that announcement kind of jogged people's memories that I am available on Skype, and I enjoy interacting with you on there. I enjoy writing you emails. So again, be sure to do that if you have any questions about this or anything else in the course. Now, let's talk about um, this assignment, or rather the persuasion basics. So we're starting our next speech, which is a persuasive speech. And generally speaking, a persuasive speech is where you try to convince someone to do something or change their thoughts or beliefs. Um, so we're going to go ahead and look at what a persuasive speech has in it. I will post this PowerPoint after we're done here this evening. So all persuasive speeches contain the following items, the following parts. The first part makes a persuasive speech truly persuasive is the proposition. It's a statement of what should be true or done, and they fall into three categories. Um, there is a proposition of value, in which you're trying to convince someone that something is or is not worth effort, money, time. Similarly, value might also, at least in the English language, it's kind of an ambiguous term in that it might also mean morality. So if you're trying to convince someone that something is wrong, like morally wrong, not factually wrong, but morally wrong, um, then that's also a speech of value. A speech of policy is about what, or a proposition of policy is a proposition where you say, "Hey, this is what should be done." So if you say, we should um, fine people for wearing red um, after Labor Day. Sorry, it's a bad topic, I know. But if your position was we should fine people money for wearing a red T-shirt or whatever after Labor Day, then that would be a policy speech. All right. Because it's about what should happen. And then a fact speech is about, is it true or false? Is a proposition of fact is about something that's either true or false, right? So persuasive speeches all contain a proposition, and all the propositions that could ever be fall into these three categories. All right. Um, Now, every persuasive speech also contains a position on the proposition, and that position is not ambiguous at all. And this is important for me to try to emphasize here, is that a persuasive speech is not like your essays in high school. I know that many of us in America at least had professors or teachers that say, I want you to write an essay on this topic, and I want you to be even-handed. I want you to talk about both sides and be neutral. No, not with this one. You are definitely for or definitely against whatever the proposition is. Now, naturally, as the speaker making the speech from scratch, the proposition is something that you've come up with, so naturally you should fall on the for side of the argument. Um, Nonetheless, you will unambiguously and definitely say in the beginning of your speech, um, I really feel like we should definitely fine people $5 every time they wear red clothing after Labor Day. All right, that would be something that you would say, and your position is clear. And again, often this position is what the speaker wants to connect to the audience. All right, that's what makes the position is what you want the audience to adopt for themselves, right? And your audience may not necessarily think about that topic this way before you started talking to them. Um, Next, after you have those two things that generally are in the beginning of the speech, your body contains reasons and examples that do the following stuff. You identify a problem that's somehow related to your position on whatever proposition. You outline why that problem exists or why it won't fix itself. Um, then you might detail a possible solution that you want people to adopt. Or you might ask the audience to act in a certain way. And again, you would explain that if the audience acts a certain way, or the action you want the audience to take will maybe resolve the problem. One of the things that makes persuasive speaking difficult for people, especially if you're from the Midwest area in the United States, is that you have to make, in order for a speech to be persuasive, you do have to try to make your audience feel uncomfortable with the way the world is related to your topic. A common topic that I get at least one speech every semester is about puppy mills. And if you want to give a persuasive speech about puppy mills and why they should be shut down, then you have to go out of your way to make the audience feel uncomfortable with the idea that puppies are being bred in these kinds of institutions. You have to make them feel like, ugh, ooh, oh, gross. I don't want to think about that. Oh, ugh. Like you have to get them to that level. And not just about puppy mills, but about any topic. All right, you have to make people feel uncomfortable and that the world is an unpleasant place in order to do some of to do this speech. All right, and then towards the end of the speech, you offer a solution that will allow them to feel like they can be comfortable again. If they, do what you ask them to do, or if they endorse the solution you want them to endorse. All right. Um, you can watch this example on your own. It's a very comical presentation. We won't necessarily deal with that here because I ranted enough already. But it's an example of a persuasive presentation. And in it, you'll see all of the things that we just talked about. You'll see that there's a proposition that is posed to him. He will have a position on that proposition, and he will tell you what that is explicitly. And then he'll go through reasons and examples why you should also reject. I'm sorry, spoilers there, but he doesn't like the proposition that his fan gives him, and he gives you clear examples and reasons why you should also reject that particular proposal. All right. So it's a good example. It's fun. It's humorous. It's animated cartoon. You watch it when you get a chance. But here is the outline that I would like for you to do. Now, this outline will not be due yet, okay? But the only thing I really want us to do is to come up with a topic and specific purpose and thesis statement. This will be, and I'll write this on our little Word document that'll be posted after the video. So if you're watching live, this will be later. If you're watching not live, if you're watching the archive, this will probably be already posted. But in any case, this is just what's going to be due this week. But let's go over the outline sequence very quickly here. So what we employ here in this class is called Monroe's motivated sequence. You can use it for any topic that's a persuasive in nature. Just like your informative speech, you have a topic, general topic statement. Maybe let's go ahead with puppy mills. I'm sorry if you want to do puppy mills. It's just on my mind. Maybe you can get some free ideas out of this video. So topic, puppy mills. Specific purpose. This is what you want to convince people of. And often it'll be the same as your thesis statement, just like it was in the informative speech. So maybe your specific purpose this time is to get people to boycott businesses that buy puppies from puppy mills. All right. Your thesis statement, if that's your specific purpose, your thesis statement might actually be slightly different as I'm thinking about it. Your thesis statement that you tell the audience might be, puppy mills are immoral institutions and we should boycott businesses that buy puppies from them. All right, so it is slightly different. But again, depending on how you write your specific purpose, it could be the same. You could copy and paste it. It's largely similar. Okay, don't go crazy if you're like, oh no, I wrote something here and I don't want to write it here. Don't fall into that trap. Go ahead and make it largely similar. It's just that this thesis statement, remember, you're going to be reading this aloud and not reading it aloud, but you're going to be saying it aloud to your peers. So if your specific purpose doesn't sound like something that you could say to the group, then make sure that your thesis statement does. That's kind of the difference there. In any case, then you have your introduction, which, I mean, we're just going to breeze through here because it's exactly the same as it was for your informative speech. You want to focus attention on the problem, i.e. grab attention. You want to tie it to the audience, tell them why they should be invested in it. There's your credibility material, which means, I am credible to speak on this topic because I've researched it over the past week. Again, that might sound humble, but that could be your legitimate experience with it. Go for it. Um, and then you have your thesis and your preview of main points, right? And the preview of main points is you just list them out, all right? So boom, bingo, bango, done. Now here's where it gets different from your informative speech. For a persuasive speech following the Monroe's motivated sequence, you have to have the following types of ideas present. All right, so your first main point should be what we call a need. All right, so it follows the following format. Your first main point is a need. So you have a statement of the need for action. All right, so you're explaining why this problem that you've identified in your introduction needs action. To do that, you will describe the problem. You will describe the signs, symptoms, effects of the problem. Technically, these things can go in any order, by the way, but you still need these elements present. All right. And then you also need an example, narrative, or testimony. So an example is an example. I'm not sure how else to describe it. You'll read about those in all these in chapter 9, which you'll read this week. A narrative is basically a story, and testimony is a quote from someone else that is knowledgeable. All right. Um, Generally, if you use a statistic, you should have a broad statistics followed by a specific example. You want both elements, okay? So if you use a story of one unfortunate puppy that was purchased from a puppy mill, maybe it suffered major injuries, and you want to really, hone in on how the emotional appeal of the suffering of this puppy. You also want to demonstrate that this puppy's experience is not unusual, right? So if you have a broad statistics themselves are not very emotionally, or they don't grab the audience very emotionally. So if you have statistics, maybe try to find an example that you feel is typical that really illustrates the problem. Similarly, if you have a narrative or a story about something or a specific example about something, you want to demonstrate that that example is not unusual, that it's supported by a broader measurement of whatever problem you're talking about. So, for example, if I say something in the first part of my speech that 400 million people suffer from drain clogging hair, um, you want to humanize that a little bit, get some emotional component in there, and say something like, I had my Uncle Harry, that drowned in a bathtub clogged with hair. He couldn't turn the water off, I guess, and the drain just, because it was clogged with hair. Harry just drowned in the bathtub because he couldn't get to the water to turn it off, and nothing was draining. It was just a silly example, but it shows you the principle. If you have one broad statistic, follow it with a specific example that will hopefully humanize the problem for you. Now, you move on to your second main point. You want to present a solution that satisfies the need. All right, so you describe what the solution is. You explain how the solution satisfies the need that or resolves the problem. In other words, and you also want to detail how the solution can be implemented. Now, sometimes this part here is going to be very quick, and the bulk of your speech will be spent over here. For some of us, the need step might be pretty quick, and the rest of us will have a really detailed plan of action here. All right, um, and that's okay. It depends on what your problem is and how complicated the solution is. All right, but you want to go over how the solution can be implemented, what plan of action can be taken, and then you go through the steps of the plan. Again, a simple one might be that you simply boycott pet stores that go to puppy mills, and then you can visit a website that shows you a list of such pet stores that you can then avoid. All right, that's a very simple solution plan there. You should also explain how boycotting those stores will result in less puppy mills being present. Okay, so it might be a very quick main point, but main point 2 is about the solution, and then you have a conclusion, right? And this is exactly the same as your informative speech, only with one thing that's a little bit different. You go over the summary, you just kind of tell them what you told them, and then you tie it back to the audience. Here's how you can be involved in this. And your concluding remark isn't just going to be like, I hope you're feeling better now that you've listened to my speech. You're going to actually ask the audience to do something. So you're going to maybe urge them to buy a product. This again depends on the problem that you've identified. You're going to urge them to buy a product or a service. You're going to urge them to maybe sign a petition. You're going to urge them to change their behavior in some way. But you're going to get the audience involved by having them do or think something. Right? And that's you call on them to act. So that is the bare bones of a persuasive speech and the kind that you'll be doing in here. Again, your assignment for this week in terms of this speech is just to get this stuff figured out: your topic, your specific purpose, and your thesis statement. From there, once you turn those in, I get a chance to look at them. I will only contact you if I feel like there's going to be a problem with your topic. If I feel that your topic / purpose / thesis is fine, you will not hear from me. All right. No news is good news. So bear that in mind. But this will be due on Wednesday at midnight. Okay, I'm trying to stagger out your assignments. So you have something due on Tuesday. We'll wait a day and have this due on Wednesday. Again, I want you to do well, so I want you to have time to focus on each thing. Okay, well that's the only last thing that we need to do is I need to pull up my Word document again, and I need to write out your assignment here. Topic is due. Topic, specific purpose, and thesis statement due in the discussion forum by Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. All right. And there's only another thing I need you to do, and I need you to read chapter 9 in your textbook. Let's say also by Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. And the reason I'm having you read this, we will get through ultimately, even if you're in the 5-week section, you're going to have basically read half the textbook by the time we're done here. I wanted to give you a little bit of a break for the informative speech, but this chapter is fairly short. Don't worry about it. But this chapter is about, in case it's somehow labeled differently, if I'm using an older textbook, maybe it hasn't changed to my knowledge, but this is entitled Supporting Your Ideas. All right. It's about how to choose examples, or what examples are, how to choose examples over a narrative versus an anecdote versus statistics, and so on. So read chapter 9, Supporting Your Ideas, in your textbook, also by Wednesday, 11:59 p.m. We will have an activity that we will do later in the week that is related to this content, so please be sure you've read it. I will explain more of that on Wednesday's broadcast. But here we are. This is what you need to do. These 2 things are your new assignments, or these 3 things. Oh my goodness. I'm going to go ahead and recopy this. The above. I'll just write that. Hopefully you'll watch the video and kind of know about is due Friday. And I'll put this into an announcement. All right, so that's all I really have for you tonight. It's a little bit longer of a broadcast than usual. See, there's like just about 6 or 7 of you watching online. So as I post this, I'm going to go ahead and use that as my dead air filler. And I'll wait for any questions out in the chat room. If there are not any, we will just kind of conclude for the evening. Okay, just send that out. Okay, go home, and we'll post that in the other one. sure everyone gets a copy of that. Okay. Well, I don't see any questions out there in chat, so I'll just wrap up the video. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thanks for doing all your work so far. Um, you've all been doing a good job. From what I can see, I do know that I did push back a due date for the outline. I made it due yesterday evening. I have not actually had a chance to look at that yet. Again, not to rant earlier, but I had it due earlier in the week because I knew I could get to it. But no, when I pushed it back, I did that mostly to make sure that you could do well. And not because I could look at it today. So I will be looking at those over the course of Monday and Tuesday, and of course I'll be starting to look at your informative speeches themselves, and I should be able to give you grades to those in the coming days. It does take a while for me to grade. You just got to remember that I've got just about 40 students, each one turning in a 4 to 5 minute speech. Each one I should try to write a comment about for each item on the rubric. It does take a while, and I do give myself breaks because if I don't, eventually I'll get so mad that people make little mistakes. You know, they might forget a source citation, and if I watch, 5 or 6 videos where people forget to cite their sources, you know, I might have started off with like, -3 points, you need to cite your source, but by the time I'm done, I might get mad and be like, -8 points for forgetting to cite your source. That's not really fair, and it's just kind of a natural human tendency for people to get angry when they see the same mistake again and again. To avoid that, I give myself breaks. So I won't generally just slam through a group of speeches of 40 speeches in a single day. I have to pace myself, and I'll grade part tomorrow, part on Tuesday, part on Wednesday, and I'm guessing by Thursday I'll have everyone's done. All right. That's not necessarily a rock solid commitment. I hate to be dodgy, kind of like that, but um, I should have everybody's done by Thursday, I believe. So, um, okay. I do want to make sure that you have your grades so that you know going into your next week here that you know how you're doing. And again, grades from before this week should be uploaded. If you are missing grades for work that you have uploaded or turned in to me, emailed to me, you need to let me know because I either misplaced it or lost it, or I never got your message, or it wasn't uploaded to Blackboard right. But you should have a grade now for everything you've done except for the informative outline and except for the informative speech, which you're turning in this evening. All right. Awesome. One last check of the chat room. Nothing there? Cool. We're done. Have a great evening, everybody. See you on Wednesday.